Excellent news, everybody. Nick Cage is back in another extremely random movie, because he likes to star in those. This one is called The Surfer. What is it about? Well, it's about a surfer. What else is it about? No one knows. All I knew about this movie going into it was that it was about Nick Cage being upset that these guys stole his surfboard and they wouldn't give it back. That's all I knew. The movie starts by telling us that Nick Cage is the surfer. Too bad he does zero surfing in the movie. Well, kind of. At the very end, he gets on a surfboard and it's implied that he's gonna surf, but kind of lame. Why is it that in all of my favorite Nick Cage movies, he's always having a really bad time? Like, a really bad time? In Mandy, he watched the love of his life get killed. In Color Out of Space, he goes insane and tries to kill his family. In Pig, he's overwhelmingly depressed. In Dream Scenario, the whole world dreams about him murdering them, and he has to face the repercussions of that.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
In Long Legs, he's a serial killer, Satanist freak. And in The Surfer, well, you'll see. He doesn't have a very good time. He's not a very happy man in this movie. He gets harassed, he's starved, he gets shit on. The list goes on, okay? This isn't my favorite Cage movie, but it's still fairly entertaining. Have you ever seen a man try to win a custody battle over a beach? Well, you're about to. I wanna say before we get too deep into things, this movie is a good time. It's not a heaping pile of dog shit like some of the other movies I've talked about, so I encourage you to go out and watch it first before I spoil it for you. The movie starts with amazing poetry. You can't stop a wave. It's pure energy.
You can't stop a wave. It's pure energy.
We learn that Nick is trying to buy a beachfront house for 1.6 million somewhere in Australia.
He's a fucking big polar bear cunt!
Which seems pretty cheap to me. I'm just gonna Google Australian beachfront homes for sale. Right away, this one is 2 million and it's packed against a bunch of other houses. It's not on a hill. What's wrong with the house? Is there no plumbing? 1.6 million Australian is about 1 million USD. They could be talking about USD. They don't really specify, but it's pretty crazy that it's that cheap. Also, it's very in character to start a Nick Cage movie with him making a gigantic purchase and then haphazardly agreeing to a 100K increase in price immediately upon hearing that there's another buyer. When I put this movie on, I just want to see Nick Cage surf because I'm positive the man can't do it.
Get out of my personal space.
So it would be funny just to see him try, but he doesn't. Ugh. How can you make a movie called The Surfer? Have it star Nicolas Cage as The Surfer. Like, he literally doesn't even have a name. The character is just called The Surfer, but he doesn't do any surfing in the movie. There's a moment during this movie when Nicolas Cage is so hungry he almost eats a rat. I can't say I've ever been that hungry. I am hungry right now, so.
How hungry?
I think I'm gonna have some cereal. Who wants some cereal? I like cereal, dude. Who here likes breakfast? I sure do. That's why I only eat the best breakfast around. Yes, I'm talking about Magic Spoon. High protein, no sugar, just as delicious as any cereal you might have had when you were younger. They've got a ton of flavors. My personal favorite is peanut butter because, you know, I like the classics. Magic Spoon is great if you have a carb-conscious lifestyle. And they also have really tasty treats. They're crispy, crunchy, and airy without the chewy stickiness of a protein bar. In the treats, there's 11 to 12 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 1 to 2 grams of net carbs, so you can always get the fuel you need on the go. Magic Spoon cereal has 13 to 14 grams of protein, 0 sugar, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs in each serving, so you can feel good about what you're eating. Magic Spoon is great, so if you want to try it out, use my code Elvis the Alien, or click the link in the description to try Magic Spoon cereal or their treats and get $5 off. You can also find Magic Spoon on Amazon or at your nearest grocery store. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee online. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked.
You're good.
So click the link in the description or go to magicspoon.com/ElvisTheAlien or scan the QR code on screen for $5 off. Thank you so much to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video. Now back to the review. This movie has an 86% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 46% audience score, which is pretty wild. You don't see this kind of critic-audience discrepancy often, where the audience really doesn't like a movie while the critics like it a lot. The director is Lorcan Finnegan. This is the same guy that made the movie Vivarium, which is a movie that I quite liked. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was pretty fun. So in the very beginning, Nick Cage and his son are on their way to the beach when he bumps into this extremely polite gentleman.
Fuck off.
Huh?
What crawled up his ass and died? We later learn that the locals despise new people and won't allow people that aren't Bay Boys to surf their beach.
We're not the Island Boys. We have 0 tattoos. We don't rap. We don't live in Florida. We never swear. And we don't kiss each other.
The Bay Boys make up this sort of like surfer beach gang or cult. Apparently this film was inspired by the Lunada Bay Boys, which is a Californian surfer gang dubbed America's Most Notorious Surf Gang by Newsweek in 2016. The group, which formed as a peaceful self-described family in the 1960s, devolved into acts of intimidation and harassment in the decades that followed in order to keep outsiders away from the beaches that they believed belonged to them. Another surfer approaches them and he's wearing a Santa hat. He warns Nick and his son to leave. Kind of crazy to be wearing a Santa hat while surfing with the sun beating down on you, but you know, whatever. Another man wearing a red hood named Scally walks up and tells them to fuck off, as if the first two men didn't make themselves clear enough. Scally is played by Julian McMahon, who passed away not too long after this movie came out. May he rest in peace. I think he did a really great job in this movie. Scally is basically the Australian surfer Andrew Tate.
Breathe air! You don't need a vape!
He preaches about what being a man truly means, and he has this cult of weird dudes that follow him. In this movie, there's a lot of close-ups, a lot of zooms, a lot of heavy breathing, dreamy blurriness, and magical music. There's also flashes of memory throughout the movie, telling us that something here isn't as it seems. Or at least, that's the vibe I got while watching.
And I remember what your old man did. Terrible thing.
By the end, I was kind of disappointed that I was wrong about that. And I'm guessing this is why a lot of the audience didn't like this movie that much. It kind of hints at some like weird Shutter Island stuff going on, but then doesn't deliver, which is kind of a letdown.
What the fuck is this?
So yeah, these Australians are a very friendly bunch. Scally even warns Nick that his son will get his ass kicked if they don't leave. I mean, there's gotta be another beach, right?
Plenty of family beaches for you to enjoy your afternoon.
But Nick loves this beach in particular. And he wanted them to surf this beach so he could show his son the home that he wants to purchase on the shore. So yeah, The Surfer, starring Nick Cage as the surfer, doesn't surf because these guys won't let him surf. What a buzzkill.
Talk about a fucking buzzkill.
The music is very whimsy and magical for some reason in this movie. It's very confusing, especially after watching it, because like I said, you're expecting some sort of like big twist that never happens. And I don't think they could boost the saturation more in this movie if they tried. Nick Cage is looking like he borrowed some of Trump's Cheeto dust tanner. Also, Nick's got some impressively long eyebrow hairs. Just thought I should mention that. This movie does not make Australians look good, by the way.
Fucking perfect! What the fuck? That's perfect!
All of them, and I mean all of them, are extremely disrespectful, rude, and xenophobic towards Nick. Like, it goes beyond just localism. There are maybe 2 Australians introduced in the entire movie that are decent. We learn that Nick's ex-wife is getting married, and she's pregnant. She decided to tell Nick both of these things on the same phone call. A huge double whammy. Sucks to suck, Nick. It's very clear to us that he still loves this woman, but for some reason it didn't work out. He even said in the movie that he wants to buy this house for his wife and his family. So he's kind of suffering from some delusion. Maybe he believes that if he gets this house, then it will repair his marriage.
The thing is, and I'm speaking to you as a friend here, this won't fix anything.
The local Australians hate your guts, and he heard probably the worst news he'll likely ever hear. Rough. He's kind of hungry, so he tries to buy a pizza off of this random guy who forces him to spend $100 on it because he's not a Bay Boy. Later, when he's filling his water, someone tosses it on the ground and steals his surfboard. So Nick is out for revenge. He tries to confront them, and it doesn't go well. Funny enough, Scally stealing Nick Cage's surfboard in this movie is not the first time that Julian McMahon had stolen someone's surfboard in a movie. Like, how often can someone say they've done that twice? In Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, Julian McMahon plays Dr. Doom, and he steals the Silver Surfer's board. He then calls the police the next day, and it's pretty clear that the police won't do shit about the theft. The only half-decent person around here is a homeless man who also has a problem with the Bay Boys. The homeless guy gives Nick a flyer, telling him that he has a missing dog. The Bay Boys then hang Nick's board up as their new sign. They even write Sanctuary on it. When Nick goes down to retrieve it, they try and gaslight him into believing that his board has been there for 7 years, and that he's just been out in the sun too long. So Nick is pissed. The cop is clearly one of the Bay Boys. Nick's car battery dies, and then the Bay Boys put a pile of shit on the water fountain so he can't drink. They vandalize his car and put broken glass down so he'll step in it. He's not having a great time with these psychos wandering around. If I were him, I would definitely not want to live here anymore. And at the very least, I would have left by now.
Fuck off.
Like, why doesn't Nick just fucking leave? You know what I mean? Like, you're not having a great time. You had your board stolen, your foot is injured, you're thirsty, your car's fucked. Nick is still desperate to buy this house, despite the relentless harassment and abuse from the locals. He wants to buy it because it's been a mission of his to live there for a long time. Apparently, he used to live here, and the house used to belong to his grandfather.
Thought you said you weren't local.
I'm not. I was once. I was born here.
So he's determined to get his old family property back. Nick wakes up all groggy, he's desperate for a coffee, but his phone died and he can't pay for it because for some reason, he doesn't carry a wallet with physical cards as backups. He only carries his phone with him and he uses his phone and only his phone to pay for things. So he obviously wasn't charging his phone in his car before it died, so that wasn't very smart. And apparently he doesn't have a charging cord, but he really wants this coffee.
Does anybody want coffee?
So he gives his father's valuable watch over as collateral until his phone is charged so he can go back and pay for it. After getting his coffee, a random man in a suit walks over to him and flips the coffee into Nick's face. Telling him that the coffee is only for Bay Boys. I laughed out loud while watching this when this happened. Like, how much shittier can this guy's life get in a 24-hour period? It kind of reminds me of the movie Falling Down. You know, this guy who's like so down on his luck that he kind of loses his mind. At least the coffee stains match his hair. I mean, you know, silver lining and all that. This photographer lady comes out of nowhere, and Nick asks her if she'll boost his car, and she does. So his car is working again. Oh, good. So he can charge his phone and, you know, do all that stuff. And more importantly, he can fucking leave. Just leave! He doesn't leave. It makes zero sense to me why Nick Cage would stick around after getting his car battery jumped. I'd be the fuck out of there, dude. Fuck the surfboard, who cares? The dude's about to buy a $1.6 million house on a beach. He can afford a new surfboard, you know? Let them have the surfboard. I guess it's a case of pride, you know? If he just let them have the surfboard, then he wouldn't have his manhood left. But no, he has to stay because this cursed place and that house has him mentally by the balls. Has his balls in a vice. We also know that Nick used to surf around the world. He told this to the photographer. Later, Nick Cage attempts to sneak into their place at night with a tire iron in hand. When I first saw this, I thought he was attempting to like beat the shit out of 20 guys. I was like, you go, Nick, you got this. It would have been amazing, you know? Just go old boy style on them, you know? But no, he's just trying to steal his board back. And he's thwarted by a dog. If it weren't for that dog, though, trust me, all those guys would have been mandied. So he's chased away and hides until morning, when he wakes and finds that his fucking car was stolen. I don't think he could possibly be having a worse time. He fantasizes himself standing on the balcony of the home. The police gaslight him into believing that a car that isn't his is his.
I drive a Lexus.
He then confronts the real estate agent, and the guy claims that he doesn't know who he is. When he goes back to the coffee stand, the guy there tells him that he doesn't have his phone and that the watch he's wearing, Nick's watch, he got for his birthday. So it seems like the entire island is trying to gaslight Nick Cage into believing that he's crazy. Well, is he? At this point in the movie, it's pretty intriguing, right? A lot of stuff has happened that's kind of weird. You're not entirely sure what's going on. Is Nick Cage the homeless guy that we saw earlier? Was this car always his car? Was his son ever there? Was he just getting harassed because he's a homeless guy and people look down on homeless people? Was there ever a surfer gang in the first place? What's reality, you know? This was the most fun I was having with the movie, and then it kind of goes downhill towards the end. I gotta say, Nick Cage is kind of stupid in this movie. He hands over his valuables far too easily to these kids that are harassing him. Like he doesn't think at all that they might be trolling him with everything they say, just trying to get a laugh. The payphone is ringing, and the kids standing by it tell him that the call is for him. But, you know, how could they possibly know that? But Nick Cage thinks it's worth the gamble giving them his fucking wedding ring so they'll step aside so he can take the call. Who on earth would do that? No one! No one would do that! No one! He was desperate to answer the call because he thought it was from his broker and he desperately wants to buy that house. So yeah, it was a prank all along. The phone wasn't even connected. They just like played the audio of a phone ringing or something. Like, I do feel bad for Nick in this movie. How could you not? You know? But he's also a bit of a moron, to put it lightly. If I wanted to buy a house, but then I found out that the locals treated me like I was a piece of shit on the side of the road, then I'm not too sure I would want the house anymore, you know what I mean? Like, if I can't leave the house without being treated like garbage, I mean, where's the value in the house? Like, you could have a fun time while you're in it if it's not being egged that day, but like, come on, dude. But he wants it for sentimental reasons, you know, it's a family house, and maybe the gang will just vanish after I buy the house, you never know. Up to this point, this movie feels like a weird Surfer Boy version of Shutter Island, mixed with like Fight Club or something. You kinda are left to guess what's real and what's only in Nick's mind. So Nick and Scally have a talk. We learn that Scally knows Nick and saw him surf when he was younger. And we learn that something tragic happened to Nick's dad when he was a kid. Apparently he died on the beach somehow. Scally tells Nick that he's a bum and lives in his car. We're left to question if the bum from earlier was just Nick all along, if he was just talking to himself, if all these things that happened were just excuses that Nick made up in his mind so he could accept his reality after his wife left him and his dad died and all this horrible stuff happened to him, or if he's truly just being relentlessly harassed and gaslighted by this group. Nick then brutally kills a rat by slamming it against his car repeatedly, but not before it bites him. He finds a bullet in the homeless man's car. He then seeks out a gun that the homeless man hid in the bathroom earlier. He's thirsty enough to drink water from a puddle on the street, and hungry enough to consider eating the rat that he killed earlier. And then a bird shits on him. Because why not? In retaliation, he eats the bird's eggs straight from the nest. He's then seen begging random people for their phones so he can call his broker. This movie does a pretty good job exemplifying how awful it must be being homeless. How so many people treat you as subhuman just because you aren't like everybody else. He finds the woman from earlier who snapped a picture of him in front of his Lexus, and she confirms to him with the picture that's still on her camera that he isn't crazy after all. That is, if the Lexus is his to begin with. Earlier in the movie, he told his son in the car that he won the shark tooth surfing competition as a kid, and there's a similar shark tooth necklace hanging from the rearview mirror of the homeless man's car. This continues to hint that perhaps he was always the homeless man, that this shark tooth necklace was his all along, and everything else was fantasy. After all, the red car has been there ever since he arrived, and we never see him take his son home. The homeless man had told him that his son Jay won this same shark tooth competition 2 years in a row before joining the Bay Boys, and he blames Scally for killing his dog. Later, when Nick spends some time in the homeless man's car, he finds newspaper articles that the man had kept of his son winning the surfing competition. So is Nick Cage's name actually Jay? And he's kind of just like making this up in his mind, and these are from when he was younger. I should add that the homeless man isn't around right now because the cop came around, and he's scared of the cop for some reason, so he fucked off somewhere, leaving his car for Nick to chill in. Earlier in the movie, on the phone with his colleague, he said he had to take a personal day. His colleague tells him that he's worried about him because he wasn't wearing shoes or socks at a meeting the other day.
Said you weren't wearing any shoes or socks in the meeting yesterday. What the fuck is that about?
And his ex-wife had called him and was upset with him for taking their son out of school. This tells us that Nick was kind of already spiraling before the movie even began.
And you either surf it or you get wiped out.
Nick has a full-on breakdown when he learns that he lost the house after calling his broker with the photographer's phone. So he rushes down to the beach with a sign in hand and bashes this guy's face in before trying to murder him by drowning him. Before you can surf, you must suffer, Scally says to Nick before baptizing him in the ocean. Scally feels like a weird Australian Tyler Durden. There's this fun wave effect they put atop the footage of Nick high as a kite after the Bay Boys drag him to their surf lodge to inject him with some sort of whatever. He wakes in the middle of the night during a weird Bay Boy ritual where he's branded with the symbol of a wave that all the other Bay Boys share. They're all high as fuck, dancing around with face paint on. It's a pretty fun scene.
suffer.
You know, it's weird how Suffer and Surfer sound so similar with an Australian accent that it's kind of hard to tell if they're saying a different word.
Before you can surf, you must suffer.
When you're watching this movie without subtitles, it just sounds like they're saying surfer, 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 surfer. When they're saying suffer, 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 suffer. You know what I mean? So it's all but confirmed to us that Nick's life from the beginning of the movie was real all along when his son comes around on Christmas Day to look for him. You've got to destroy to create, he says, as he pressures Nick to burn the homeless man's car. At this point, Scally almost indoctrinated Nick into the cult. Nick tells his son that it's totally fine to hang out with these crazy bay boys. You know, they're just a little misunderstood. Let's go surfing, pal. So they all go down to the beach. The homeless man rushes down there with his gun after seeing his car burned. He has them all at gunpoint, and they all go down on their knees. He lets Nick and his son live after Nick shows him that he stole his child's shark tooth necklace. Maybe he thought that he saved it from the burning vehicle or something. Anyway, the homeless guy kills Scally and then himself, mirroring Nick's own father's suicide. So Nick's obsession with this beach and the house and reclaiming them shows the desperation of a man clinging to a crumbling self-image. The movie centers around ownership, dominance, and exclusion, and we get to see that some people, through excluding others, gain this sense of importance and superiority. The Surfer kind of feels like someone filmed a schizophrenia episode in real time and just added ocean sounds. Like I said earlier, the movie does flirt with the idea of being a Shutter Island-like story of a man who isn't what he believes.
What the fuck is going on here?
What the fuck is this?
When in the end, it's telling us that Nick, a very wealthy man, is not unlike the homeless man, who have both been wronged by the same group and share trauma. So yeah, kind of bummed that there was no twist at the end, but it was still a fun watch for the most part.
That's a good one.
Watching Nick Cage have a really, really, really bad day is more entertaining than it should be. I just wish we at least got to see Nick attempt to surf. Why didn't they let us see Nick Cage attempt to surf? That's my number one question. Apparently, director Finnegan envisioned the ensemble cast of characters surrounding Cage's Surfer as representative of different facets of the titular character's psyche. The use of color is significant in this movie as well. Yellow is used to connect certain visuals to the surfer's father and childhood. The red worn by Scally, originally scripted to be white, is meant to evoke early depictions of both Jesus and Satan, as well as hint at the dangerous aspects of the character. At one point, the surfer changes into a blue hoodie, representing the Virgin Mary. So the guy that Nick hit with the sign is named Pitbull, I guess.
I mean, Mr. Pitbull there?
You know, like the rapper singer guy.
Don't live here, don't surf here.
And remember the rat from earlier? Well, Nick had put it in his pocket. When he was attempting to kill Pitbull, he took the rat out of his pocket and shoved it into Pitbull's mouth, saying, "Eat the rat!" That part was improvised by Cage. Nick had said that that part was an ode to Billy Wilder. He compares it to a scene from a movie he watched called Sabrina, where Humphrey Bogart takes an olive out of a martini glass and he says, "Eat it," to someone.
Eat it.
Quite different from a fucking, you know, big ass rat.
Oh, shit!
But, you know, I see the similarities there, Nick. I mean, they're kind of there, if you squint. After Nick was about to eat the rat, that was supposed to be the end of the rat in the movie. He shocked nearly everyone during the filming of this scene when he pulled it from his pocket and tried to force it into co-star Alexander Bertrand's mouth. So yeah, guys, that was The Surfer. Pretty decent movie. It was pretty fun. I wish there was a twist. That would have been satisfying, but there wasn't. Maybe the twist was that there wasn't a twist all along. Thank you so much to all my patrons that make videos like this possible. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye! Suffer, 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 suffer.